Hello and welcome back to another art vlog thing where I talk about things because I like talking about things in art vlogs. I'll come up with a name for this series at some point. If we could even call it that. This feels like just some kind of like live journal thing I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Anyway, the point is God dang it. I started playing Twisted Wonderland because it finally came out. Like the first time I heard about this game was like when it just came out in Japan, and I was just like, I want it. And there was actually a really cool translator that was translating the game. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna look up who they are so I can just shout them out because their translation was really good. Yeah, Shell underscore BB. They were translating the game, at least the main story. I think they also translated because I was just listening to the translations of like the main story because I didn't really want to get into the other stuff because if the game ever came out, like I remember my sister, I was like, I'm giving this game 2 years to be translated, which I basically was a spot on that because usually, especially something this popular, um, usually takes 2 to 3 years to translate. So I was just like, if it doesn't take, if it takes longer than that, something tells me we're not gonna get it. But I was just like, but this is like a Disney product, so I'm just like, it would it would be idiotic to not translate this to English audience at some point. I just would not understand unless there was some kind of awkward legal issue that came up. But other than that, I was just all like, we're going to get this game at some point. I'm being patient, but also not being patient because, like I said, I was only focused on the main story translations. The side event stuffs I didn't bother looking into because I wanted to actually do those parts when the game came out, except the ghost wedding. The ghost wedding, everybody was talking about it. They said it was the funniest thing they've ever seen. It was like the funniest side thing. I mean, a lot of the side events are pretty funny, but this one was just leaving people with stitches, and everybody was just like drawing the funniest pictures. I was just like, okay, this is the only one. This is the only one. And ironically enough, the translator that I was listening to was also translating it because I don't think even they were translating most of the events. I think they only translated the wedding one. So I was like, well, here I am. I saw the wedding, but I will enjoy once we get to that event again. I definitely want to get uh Riddle's picture too, so I could see him in his glory, flames all around him like the little Elmo meme. And as you could tell by the picture that I'm drawing, yes, I am a big Riddle fan. Actually, the funny thing is, it's a hard like it's hard to pick between Riddle and Azul. Now, Azul isn't technically out yet when it comes to his card. I mean, it's coming out very soon. So it's just all like between those two, I'm just all like must protect the child. And then I always have trouble pronouncing his name, Kamal. Uh, the 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 little what's the word I'm looking for? The little uh the good one, the one that I question why he's in this school with Jamal. Uh, I how'd he get here? And Jack and Deuce. I think that's like my list, like from beginning to end, because Jack is just straight up good boy, another good boy, and then Deuce is also he wants to be a good boy, but he isn't. Um, so I haven't done too much of the side stuff just yet, mostly because um I kind of like it's one of those things where it's a little intimidating at first to play the game because it feels like there's a lot when in reality it isn't. But then again, I don't play many I guess technically this would be considered a gotcha game. I don't play many gotcha games, so I'm not familiar with a lot of the the how to get stuff and how to manage your stuff very quickly. And even my sister that plays a lot of gotcha games was just like a little bit on the Okay, once you understand what everything like they're all called different things as most gacha games are, but once you get your head around it, it's really easy. There's like maybe two things that make you go, "Oh, that's a bit different." Like how the leveling system and the marionettes when uh, the the menyets. I think that's how you say it. The menyets are separated, and the menyets are like story based when it comes to your card, and then like the level is like separate. I was like, oh, that's cool. So like you could kind of just like separate because then you're not overwhelmed by like story updates with your character cards. You could actually just kind of manage that completely separate. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Um, like I didn't realize how neat that was until I was like, oh, so I could actually take my time when it comes to actually going into the side story stuff, without having to feel like I get an update every time I level up my card. Cool, cool. And I kind of want to get to the story cap before I start focusing on the side stuff. And I just started chapter 2, and like I said, since I already technically know the main story, I've been kind of going through it, just like pretty simple. Funny enough, like okay, so I was going through it pretty well until I had to do the riddle fight. Um, cause like for some reason the riddle fight was like agonizingly difficult for me, and I'm like, I don't think it's supposed to be. I don't know what I did wrong. Apparently what I did wrong is that do not ignore the the daily lessons, the one where you have to do the whole buddy level up, right? Because apparently that's the only way you could get the spell books. I didn't realize how important that was, especially since you could only get certain spell books on certain days. That's why they're the daily lessons. I was like, oh, this is how you level up your attack, like or specifically like your element attacks. Oh, I've been completely ignoring this. So like that's why I'm like over leveled but also getting my butt whooped. So I'm just like, what did I do wrong? So note to self, to anyone playing the game, do not ignore daily daily lessons. Unless you want to buy them at the store, which that is still very difficult, especially since how many you need. I think you could also get spell books in the exams, but you can't access that until you beat the first chapter. So that's why I'm saying just like do not ignore your daily lessons. Get as many books as you feel like you need on the daily lessons, especially if there's a particular element on that day that you need for certain characters. Uh, do not get stuck on the riddle fight like I did because you ignored your daily lessons. Oh, and another thing that makes me sad because not because of anything that the game did. This is just me being dumb. Was when you know when they do the first roll of your cards, but cool thing is you can keep rolling until you're satisfied with what like the very first roll you can keep rolling until you get what you like basically, and that's the only time you can do that. Well, actually, I think there's another thing that you could technically do on, but you can't do like you only do it with like one card, I think. And even then, I don't think you get like any SS cards or SR cards. Like it's very limited on the rarity of the card that you can do it with. Besides that, so with the very first roll you do in the game, basically the two, at least when I started, I don't know if they change it for any new players that are coming in. You only get three SSR cards, which is Ace, Deuce, and Riddle. And I was dumb, I was impatient about playing the game that I decided to just get Ace. And I was like, I'll get Riddle some other time. I still don't have Riddle's SSR card. I was like, and my sister does, and I am super jealous because I was just like, if I just stuck it out, I would have gotten that card. But no, I was impatient. I wanted to play the game, and I was all like, it's just a gotcha game. You can get it, like, just be patient enough. You get it at some point. But now with the new cards rolling in, it's getting harder and harder to get this card. In fact, I still only have that ace card as my SSR card. I'm like, no. Like, why did I do that? So, but, it's okay. I like Ace too, and he's already interacting with other characters in that card that I like, so I'm like, okay, it's fine. I'll get over it. He's also secretly a good boy. They're all secretly good boys, except maybe Lyanna. He might be the actual genuine villain in this. in this entire in this entire school. I'm just like, nah, I think he just might be evil. Like, chapter 2, I'm just like, bruh, you wanted to murder someone. I mean, you didn't really care if it led to murder, but what the hell? I used like, what the hell? Now, in the translation, I've only seen up to chapter 4, 5. I've seen up to chapter 5, and I technically had like maybe 2 more things to see because I stopped right at the beginning of the fight, like the main boss fight in that one. So that's as far as I got when it came to the translation, and then I stopped, and then the game came out. So, I would say, let's see, as much as I super love the first chapter, it's the greatest start in the whole thing. And of course, Riddle's chapter, I nearly bawled my eyes out, and my sister nearly bawled her eyes out. It was very funny, because I normally when I tell her that's like, oh, it made me super sad. Like, normally, okay, when it comes to my sister, never tell her that like, oh, this is super sad, because she normally doesn't end up feeling anything because she's kind of on guard. Or she misreads what the sadness is, because sometimes she has a particular thing that makes her sad, right? So, but when the riddle stuff started coming up, she started making jokes during his whole sad story situation, and I knew what she was trying to do because I could hear it in her voice that she's like trying, like she's choking up while she's also making jokes. She's like, please laugh at my jokes, or if I don't stop, I'm going to cry. I am so upset. But yeah, as much as I love the first chapter, um, it I guess mm, for second place of my favorite, it would be between the first chapter and the fourth chapter because of the whole Jamal situation. Because that was just intriguing. Because like with Jamal's situation, I was like, man, I can't wait for this story to try to convince me to feel bad for this guy. Because what he's doing is making me genuinely upset. Because I was just like, it's like, wow, what a conniving little butt. Like I was like, there's no way this story can convince me that, like, and it really didn't. Like, the best part was it didn't try to justify what Jamal was doing. It just made you understand, and that as far as I wanted it to do. And it really pulled it off. I was just like, wow, that's a really messed up situation. No wonder why he went this far. But god dang, really? Um, but number one favorite chapter so far, because I think we have 2 more chapters left of the main story when it comes to, and doing all the main character storylines. I'm really curious of what they're gonna do after that. If there's Because this is a gotcha game, it's just gonna keep going, right? But anyway, what my absolute favorite chapter is chapter 3, with Azul. Azul's chapter is amazing, because unlike the other ones where there's kind of like those little story dips of just all like I'm paying attention, but I can kind of come in and out at any moment, and I wouldn't feel like super like invested in some scenes. But when it came to Azul's chapter, like it was funny because that was around the time. Uh, yeah, I think that's when I right before I convinced my sister to start watching the translations with me, and it was kind of funny because she really at the time she has a different opinion about chapter 2 now, but at the time she really did not like chapter 2, only because chapter 2 kind of gave her like this feeling of she was worried about the direction the story was going in the sense of like completely shoving our character in the background. And then chapter 3 happened, and then it did a complete reverse. Um, and we were like every time the translator had like to like like once the update was over, we were like, no, like we had that moment of like, no, not another cliffhanger, I want more. Like that was the only chapter that made us go like, no, every time. I mean, there were some parts in chapter 4 that made us do that, but really like chapter 3 we were just constantly invested in every single update that happened. um like the tiniest update, we were just all like, So, chapter 3 is the best so far. Azul's story is just amazing. It's so tight, and it's so like it's intense. like the intensity, like it already is pretty intense at first because you're like, oh wow, there's like some serious stuff going on. But the intensity intensifies every development of the story the entire time because it feels like you're dealing with the goddamn mafia. You realize later on that it's kind of a farce, not 100%, but it's kind of a farce. But like at the time, you don't know, so like you just are like, I swear to God, they're gonna take my fingers. Like like this is a terrible idea to make a deal with these people. What have we done? And the Leech's twins, oh, the Leech twins are terrifying. They're just like they're surprisingly intimidating. And then you have Azul there being like the little like yes. Oh my god. And like chapter 5 is okay. It does have a lot of good moments in that one too. Especially like I feel like I'll avoid talking about chapter 5 only because of the fact that without details about, because a lot of it has to deal with like a lot of character development with a lot of the characters because each chapter is like slightly longer than the last one, and that's usually to cover like past character events and of course the new storyline that's popping up, right? So just like always remember, every time you finish one chapter, the next one's probably going to be like not like twice as long, but like slightly longer than the last one. At least that's how I've seen how these things are structured. Like I think the first chapter is like 25 parts, and then the next chapter is like 30 parts. Like I think they up it by like 5 more parts each chapter, 5 to 10 I think. um but yeah, uh like I said, up to chapter 5 is where I was reading the translations, but in the game, the translated version right now, it's only up to 2 chapters, and I think the third chapter is going to drop like very soon, like maybe, I think like in 2 to 3 weeks. So that's how far the game is. So I'll be playing more of it as I go. Once I start hitting to unfamiliar territory with the main story, I might make another video, or if something happens in the side events that I want to talk about. I'll definitely make another video of Twisted Wonderland because something tells me that's going to be another topic that I wouldn't mind talking about for a while. Um, Next video is going to be another FNAF one because it'll be a while before I fall off this train again. And what else? What else? Oh, right. And then I also want to do another video talking about um, Obey Me. That's an interesting story because it's actually surprisingly kind of connected to Twisted Wonderland in a bit. Because, like, if it wasn't for Twisted Wonderland, I probably would have never played Obey Me. There's still a possibility that I might have at some point, but the main reason why I played Obey Me was because of Twisted Wonderland, and I'll get into that when I make that video. Until then, put a comment in the comment below, possibly any questions on like certain things that happened in Twisted Wonderland that I forgot to bring up or should have brought up, or you think would be an interesting topic to talk about, or something like there's a particular character you wanted me to go in more detail on what I think of and how I think of the character, and just basic any other questions in the comment section. And that's it. So, talk to you later, guys. Good morning and good night.